Has the announcements of the central contracts for the men's team in Indian cricket ever triggered this kind of conversation? Are we seeing something that we've never seen before? As prominent players like Shreyas, Iyer, Ishan, Kishan are left out, Hardik Pandya stays. But has there been a message sent through these actions and decisions? Sambit Bal, editor in chief, to just make sense of it and read in between the lines. Shreyas Iyer has been a prominent player for Indian cricket. Sambit top scored in the semi-final, played Test match cricket, already fulfills the criteria, but something about not making yourself available to play for India seems to have had repercussions, as a letter from the BCCI secretary said little while back. What can we read from what's happened?
I mean, it's a huge statement. It's a statement. But if you're aware of the rumblings around the team and the conversations around the team, this was not completely unexpected. I kind of almost expected this to happen because you see what was leading up to it. Uh, the story around Shreyas Iyer being dropped or whether he was injured, like the news that came from the players' camp was that he was actually injured, where the selectors were very, very clear that they were dropping him because the NCA had cleared him and they said he was available. Yet, what you have to really read is between the lines. It was felt that he was perhaps not as keen to play Test cricket. This is a huge. It's not a. We're not making an allegation against him. This is what the subtext the undercurrent that you felt, and that's uh, perhaps the selectors and the team management know, and the Shreyas Iyer knows what the real story is. But and then after that, there was a clear communication sent out to the players that play the Ranji Trophy if you are available. And again, he didn't play, and Ishan Kishan didn't play. So BCCI have sent out a huge statement that you have to prioritize BCCI's cricket, not only India cricket, all for BCCI's cricket to be eligible for a BCCI contract.
Is that fair on part of the players, who will also argue that they aren't alone in those that have picked and chosen to play domestic cricket at their own convenience, or looking at the calendar, the IPL, we know how important it is. That is also a BCCI tournament. So is this a fair expectation from the board of the players?
I think it's a completely fair expectation. Because if you were going to play the test, you would have been playing the tests, right? If you were available to play, you would have been playing the tests. So why would you not play Ranji? And if you want to be a red ball player, there are players are fully entitled to choose if they don't want to be red ball players, they want to be only white ball players. But if you want to be only white ball players, then you have to play all the white ball tournaments of the BCCI. You can't turn up and say I will only play the IPL because you've come through the system. You are a product of the system, and it's just unfair that because you have reached somewhere and that's true of the tensions in West Indies started because all these players didn't want to play their regional
Look,
cricket or their domestic cricket.
yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
and the board is completely entitled
Yep.
to do what they think that they need to prioritize what they need to want to prioritize, and they're entitled to. This is a BCCI contract. It's not that it's not stopping you from playing. It's
Sure.
not even stopping you from playing for India.
Yeah.
BCCI is saying that you want the central contract, and these are the guidelines that are in place. And if you don't, then we're entitled not to pick you.
What they would want, therefore, as the players go, is at least the same guidelines to be followed for everyone. And there would be a
Yeah.
sentiment amongst the fans that Shreyas, after playing as much as he had already, perhaps fulfilling the minimum criteria required to at least gain the lowest degree of contract. He's already played 4 Test, 12 ODIs, and 2 T20Is in this current contract periods, as recently as the first 2 tests against England, which finished, the second one finished in Vizag. And after he complained of back spasms and was deemed unavailable for Mumbai cricket, we have learned that the NCA did declare him fit. And after missing the quarterfinal, he will now play the semi-final for the Mumbai Ranji team. That has happened after this. Ishan Kishan is a different story. He took a break because of personal reasons, and we sympathize completely with a player that needs a break for mental health concerns. However, uh, he hasn't featured in any competitive cricket, and it was Rahul Dravid who said he will have to earn his place back by playing some domestic cricket, given the lengthy duration of time he's been away. He played in the DY Patil Cup this week, but he has not been offered a central contract. These are two players missing from that central contract list, Sambit, but Hardik Pandya isn't. And this is where I guess the questions will come. Okay, why does Hardik get a central contract having not featured but Shreyas and Kishan, having featured perhaps more than him, are left out. And this is where what you just said comes in about choosing white or red ball cricket.
See, it's very clear that Hardik is not really looking to be a red ball cricketer. So he's not played a test for a while, and I don't think anybody sees him as a test player. And he is seen as a white ball player. Uh, and he was also, you could say that he was also the captain designate. Whether he deserves a contract or not, that's open to question. But there is nothing to suggest that he has not played when he was available and fit to play. So I don't really know whether what his fitness is and what his injuries is and what his rehabilitation program is. So I don't really know that. But there are things that we don't know. Well, the conversations between players and selectors and the board.
Yes.
We don't really know all of these things. So prima facie, I would say that Hardik is lucky to get a contract because he hasn't played enough for India for a long time. But he missed the World Cup. If he was available and fit, he would have played the whole World Cup. If he had played the World Cup and he was fit, who knows that he would be India's T20 captain. I guess those might have been considerations.
In which case, I guess if we read what has happened here, which Shreyas saying that he's unavailable for Indian domestic cricket, but showing up at a preseason KKR camp, can't help but think that this is now an important period for Indian cricket when it comes to players wanting to either prioritize franchise cricket, where the franchises certainly would expect that, looking at what they pay these players and how important they are. And the board clearly saying that's not good enough, that Indian cricket, domestic cricket, oversees or supersedes franchise cricket. How do you see this playing out in the next?
That for me the more interesting subtext here. That I always thought there would be a time where BCCI and the franchisees there will be some sort of power struggle and you can see those tensions. I'm not saying that there's already a power struggle and a battle happening, but you can see those tensions. All the franchisees are paying big money to their big players, and they will say that we're entitled to have them at peak conditions mentally, physically, uh, for their tournament. Uh, and BCCI obviously wants them to play all formats if they're available and they're good enough. So that tension is you're seeing a little bit of manifestation of that tension here. That there are players who will are not playing in this test series. They will certainly they will turn up for to play for their franchises. Uh, so suddenly players need more breaks. Uh, all that will play out over the next this year, next year, perhaps that we. But I think it's a beginning of that tension surfacing now.
And what does it mean for a player, this decision? I'm sure a message is being sent to players as well, young players, on you need to know
See,
your priorities, or are you willing to live with just playing IPL cricket? And what does that
yeah,
possibly mean?
players have to make a choice in the sense that BCCI will not suddenly allow them to go and play in other leagues in the world. That BCCI has been very clear about, and you can say that discriminatory, but BCCI are again entitled to safeguard their own cricket, and they can afford to do so because they are the most powerful board in the world, and so the players really have to decide that is 2 months of IPL enough for uh, for their growth as players, for the money they'll make, and for their brand value. Is that enough? Just playing 2 months of IPL. That's a choice that players have to make.
My last question to you on this is: are you surprised, perhaps pleasantly, by the board taking this action? Nothing would have stopped them from simply adding them in some category of players and avoiding the
I'm
backlash as such.
so if you leave aside the individuals here, you can feel sorry for Shreyas Iyer or for Ishan Kishan, but I think as far as the statement goes, I'm really happy that the statement has been made. Means you can't just bark and not bite, right? You
Hmm.
so that they have done that, and so it sets out the marker for everybody in the future, and I hope this marker is equally applied to everybody. That's all I'll say.
Thank you for your time, Sambit.
Thank you.